Uh, Good afternoon. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hello?
can. We can hear you.
Oh, wow, that's nice. So, I'm so glad that you're here. So far, we have 12 people online. Okay, that's good. Um, okay, so we shall have, I think you can hear me well. Unfortunately, my everything. Okay, just in a few, we'll start with some introductions. So, my name is Irene, and just a moment. Okay, hope my video is better. Okay, so my name is Irene, and I'm going to be a facilitator. We're going to be looking at collaborative tools and technologies. So, and I'm so glad to be here with you. So today, we are going to cover the introduction. Today, we shall not be doing practicals, but we shall have the foundations of the next 4 days. Okay. And I'll just put this off. I'll just briefly speak about myself. So, a software developer and as well as a trainer doing Code Queen. So we train young women on how to use technology to solve problems in their communities. And this has been through skilling them with web development skills. So they come in, learn how to use tech, and then identify challenges in their communities and use that tech to create a viable product which is sustainable. And today, as I'm with you, we're going to be looking at a few things, okay? So I got an email from Faith. I have seen that you have actually responded. Yes, I have seen that you have actually responded. So for those who are still facing challenges with downloading and everything, I shared with you a prerequisite document which has all the steps that are needed. But in case maybe it's too technical, you can still send me an email or a WhatsApp. It will be quickly actually responded to through WhatsApp. I'll share with you my screen. So this is what we're going to cover today. Okay. And if at all I'm too fast, please let me know. If at all you have any questions, feel free to ask the questions. So, collaborative tools and technologies. We shall start today. By the end of this session, you'll get to know what collaboration is, understand effective communication practices, know how technologies can help you to collaborate with your members, and also introduction to the required software. Okay, as yet that was already shared with you. So we shall handle people who have queries and all that stuff. But before we get deeper into this, my style of sharing information is not really one way. I don't like speaking all by myself. Sometimes it sounds like I'm talking all to myself. So feel free to share with me your experiences. We're going to be talking about your experiences because everyone you did not grow up in desert alone. So you have met people whether physically or online. Just feel free to share your experience, okay? Because this is a real life thing. It's a real life thing and it's not theoretical that you're just going to leave it here. So feel free to share with me anything. So before we begin, do we have anyone with a concern, any kind of concern, or the things that you would like to know more before I give you this that I have, and you share with me what you have. Is there someone who has a pressing issue, has gone ahead to research even before this session, and would like to share with me some of the key issues that they have been hearing or they would like to know more about that may still be in this frame that we are looking at today? You can either unmute or Angel, are they able to unmute or they have to type in the chat?
Irene, right now they're unable to unmute, but you have the authorization to unmute once someone raises their hand or when they have
All right. So whenever you raise your hand, or maybe you can type in the chat, we'll be following through. Okay. All right then. So we are just going to have a chat. This is not the history class, okay? So what collaboration is all about? It's all about working together. For example, I'll use examples, real life scenarios. Like, for example, someone is working on a project, just as for you now, you're in the legal profession and you have your clients. So a client approaches you when they have an issue and you have to work with them, even though they have come to you who has the skills, but still you have to work with them to figure out a solution. So this is how it works. You are experienced and are knowledgeable in the law sector, but then there is this person who comes to you. So your experience is with you. Okay, you're the one who knows the things, but you can only apply them when you are solving a problem. So that brings in your clients or people that you are just working with, even if it's your colleagues. So let's look at this in a relationship of you and your client. So this person has to tell you their issue. For example, they are having disputes in the family. So this person has to narrate to you the problem, and it's your role to understand actually that which they are going through, so that you refer back to your books and then you say, according to this and this and this is what is required for us to do. And then you state all the legal stuff that are tied onto that case, whether you need to file a report, the steps that they have to take. But all this is only possible when people are working together. So when it comes to teamwork, it's really good to share not only information in a biased way, but we go on ahead and we look at how, for example, the officers, like for example, the police officers who come in just to make sure that the information that is shared is accurate. That's when the investigations come in and all that stuff. But today we are mostly going to look at, so if at all I would like to work with you, what are some of those things that I have to really, really be mindful about? Okay. What are some of those things that your client, or the qualities that they need to have for you to understand them? And also, what are some of those things that you also need to have so that they understand you? Because just a moment. Okay. All right, no question. So because for any person to successfully work with another person, there has to be effective communication. So I'm going to ask a question. We are going to start from the negative side, then the positives will be automatic. What are some of the things that you have ever The question is, what are some of the things that you have experienced that can either put you off when you're in certain kind of conversation, or when you're trying to communicate with someone, be it writing an email, writing a document, or even speaking to them face to face? So what are some of the things that put you off in that you are unable to stand this person and you're like, I wish they could just end right now. So feel free to unmute, share with me your story. And then for those who can't unmute, kindly type in the chat. Okay, let's use this time well. Feel free to raise a hand in case you want to speak or to type in the chat. I will be reading. So the question is, I'll also type for those who maybe have glitches in the internet connection. I'll type for you. Okay, so we have Moses, Mr. Moses Kiza, Moses Chikomeko. Okay. He says that not listening or paying attention to me can really put me off. I think you're not the only one. I think the same applies to me. Like you're trying to speak to this person and this person gives you a shoulder like, I'm too busy for that. But then you are trying to relay information and this person is giving you a cold shoulder. So those are some of the things that can really put off someone. And then we have Jesse Mugero says that not understanding what I'm saying. Not understanding what I'm saying. That is really a very large barrier to communication. Like someone can say, I'll just give a simple illustration. Sorry. Like if at all someone just says, okay, now we are going to give as simple as using a tone. If someone says, come here, it appears it's humble, it's a request. And then one can even go further and says, come here, please. But then someone, if at all someone else comes and says, come here, so it's a command, it's rude. Do you see? So even the meaning changes. And there is also another way that in which someone can say, we are still on Jesse Mugere's point, that not understanding what I'm saying, it may not only be the person who is wrong, but also the way that we say the things or even write what we try to convey to this person. So understanding is two-way. How do you present your issue? And also, what is the state of someone who is receiving the information? So I may give the information and I'm trying to mean A and someone gets B, maybe because of my tone. So we are on the side of the sender. Maybe my tone or the choice of words or even the words that I use, maybe even the language is not understandable. But then when we go to the side of the receiver, someone's mental state can also affect the way that they receive information. For example, if someone really believes that a certain tribe of people are in this way, so no matter how good your points may be, this one may be biased about it and will never get your point and will not even understand, or maybe even the language that you use. You will notice I'm not a legal person like who studied law. So I do not go much into the law terms because for me, I'm mostly technology and I'm trying to break down technology. So just I'll give you this story. So Angel allowed me to share this. Recently, Angel sent me a message that I'll let you know when we have, is it quorum? I hope I have pronounced that right. And the funny thing is I had to Google what quorum means actually. I don't know what quorum means. It's my first time. Like, okay, should have texted. I'll let you know when we have the bare minimum of people to start. So I actually Googled that. I didn't tell you, and I responded like as if I knew, but I didn't know what quorum is. So, yes, don't laugh at me. So, interruptions, belittling my statements impolitely. Exactly. So, the environment that we're in, how we treat someone's responses is also important for people to work together. Thank you, Christine Nansuga, for this. And Jogo says, I hope I have pronounced your name right, not having the facts. Good. This is equivalent to someone who doesn't know something and comes and comments about it, or even tries to give their insights of something that they do not understand. You do not have the facts, present something without having evidence. It's really not cool. It also puts me off. And Faith says taking longer to respond than would ordinarily be required. Yes, this is really important, and especially when it comes to professionals' lifestyle, communication is key. Tell me that you are not going to do this. Tell me that if at all, for example, I'll just give an example of an emergency situation. So recently we had a certain breakdown when it came to the systems of a certain organization, and the person who was in charge was actually away. His phone was off, and it was an emergency because a great deal of money there was a deal that involved lots of amounts of money that was going to be made, and the system had to be up and running when the investors came in. So the person in charge of the tech wasn't there, and the because of his absentia and inability to communicate on time, actually almost led to the deal being put off. So even when someone tells you, just imagine, you just walk by and you just say hello to someone, looks at you, looks around the environment, and then says hello. I mean, even the relevance of communication would have changed. Like, so there are certain things that require an urgent response, because without an urgent response, just as Faith told us, yeah, she has said taking longer to respond, it can result even into certain consequences that may be costly. It may not only be costly financially, but there are certain situations that can also cost a life. So thank you, Faith, Mr. Tabu, Christine, Jesse, and Moses for this. So let's look at some of the things you have actually answered yourselves. So some of the effective communication practices that we need to be mindful about are clarity to avoid misunderstanding. So be as clear as possible, active listening. Who has spoken about active listening? Jesse. So these are the solutions to the things that you have put across. Respect, timeliness. Yes, Faith talked about this, that we need to have timeliness. And this gives us smooth flow of operations and also maintenance of interest. So timeliness can even go as far as maintaining someone's image. Okay, when I talk about image, some people call it brands when it comes to a company. Others call it an image for individuals, in that the way in which this person, someone may take you to be unserious if at all you do not communicate on time. So these are the solutions for yes, and she also talked about feedback, transparency. We need to also follow up. That transparency helps. Okay, we'll start with feedback. Feedback helps to facilitate growth and improvement, but also feedback can be a confirmation of reception of something. So it's not only good for you to always receive, but it's also better to give feedback. When someone sends you an email, at least say, thank you, I've received it. But not to receive something and you do not send a response, you don't follow up, you don't do anything. I think today, Faith, you have got a demonstration of what feedback means. When you sent, I responded, but also followed up. So those are actually some of the steps that we can take when it comes to communication. We talk about transparency. You need to maintain trust and accountability. So is there someone who can explain what transparency means? Yes, you can either type in the chat, raise a hand to unmute, and yes, so someone can just help us to understand in which ways do you understand transparency? So we have talked about follow-up and then adaptability. We do not always meet the same people everywhere that we go. We are in a world that is full of different cultures, different groups of people, different this and that. And there are always people whom you have never met, whose behaviors you have never encountered before. So it's not our role to just complain, this person is nagging, the other one is this, the other one is that. But we also have to be adaptable, okay? Not to that level of being disrespected, but the bare minimum of adaptability. So this helps us not only to be flexible, but also to accommodate change in our environments and beyond. Okay? So being adaptable not only helps you to fit, not to fit, but to accommodate various kinds of people and groups, but it also helps us to accommodate changes. And yes, do we have something in the chat? Okay. So Christine says evasiveness or leaving out the facts. Oh, she's still on the things that put her off. Leaving out the facts. Yes. So every time that we communicate, we need to have a solid understanding of the things that we do. There is a certain scenario that happened just recently, but it has been happening for years and years and years. And some of the things that have been happening are on social media. Okay. And on social media, we have people who start a fire around public figures. Like someone wants to create maybe someone wants to create some news, or they just want to create commotion on social media. And so this person goes on ahead to post that this person, maybe a certain musician is actually cheating on the wife or is doing something. So they just bring something on the table so that they have threads that are running. But leaving out the facts of something is really, really dangerous. So it's not only dangerous to the people who have been attacked, but it can also cost people their lives. I remember a certain scenario. I think it was about a certain artist who was attacked on social media that this person is having an affair out of their marriage. So this was not only false, but it also created a commotion in the family. It also created a negative impact because cameras followed them everywhere that they went. And then it also created, like, it tarnished this person's image and also the music industry. Everyone was, you know, shaming the family and everything. But then when they got this reporter, it ended up showing that actually she had just written this article to get likes on Facebook and on other social media platforms. But the danger that she caused was actually beyond something that can be repaired with words or even with money. So when it comes to communication, we are back to this. When it comes to communication, it's really important not only to want to say something, but to be conscious of the audience to which it's going to. That will help us to choose the words that we have to communicate it in, and also to be adaptable because we are communicating to groups of people or even to clients whose background may not necessarily be legal. No, I mean like law related. I'm talking about legal. The opposite of legal is illegal. So they may not be so good with knowing law related stuff, but even with someone who comes from the deep village of Chiboga, when he or she meets a lawyer, even though this lawyer has so many degrees and all these honors and everything, they have to actually now cut down their degrees to the level of that person. And it's even better when a local language is used, or make use of an experienced and reliable interpreter. Okay. So do we have any questions? So these are just some of the practices, but there are so many that we also need to watch out for. So do we have any questions when it comes to effective communication? Kindly type in the chat, or you can raise your hand and ask that question. I'll give you a minute. You can type the question or concern, and then it will be responded to. Thank you. All right, I'll take that as no questions. Okay, so let's go on and to the next thing. So, as I told you earlier, this is a practical thing, okay? It's a practical session, like it's a practical topic where we're going to look at how to effectively use ICT in communication. So we have looked at the practices, but communication is no longer old school. Communication is no longer old school. So with the modern era, technology has taken over when it comes to communication. Unlike in the recent years where someone wanted to communicate to someone in Western Uganda and has, if at all that person is situated in Central, has to write a letter, take it to the post office, and then it will take a couple of days for them to be sieved into categories by location. And then they set people off on a journey so that they deliver the letters to the post office, to another post office in Western Uganda. And also those people had to categorize the letters, according to from where they have come from, and then they also categorize them by destination within Western Uganda. So the entire process could even take up to 5 days. There is someone who narrated to me a story. Who has ever tried to communicate in that way? No, we are not too old, but who has ever tried during those years, and you have ever written a letter, used the post office? Do you have anyone online? So, I'm not the only one. So Moses says Yellow Pages was so common in my area. I've never heard of that before, but I think that was so old. So, how was your experience with that kind of communication? Feel free to type in the chat. You can raise your hand to unmute. And yes, we shall have a wonderful session. So, Mr. Tabu says ID, the same applies to David. And yes, so, okay. So they can relate to what I'm saying. Thank you so much. So that was really timely, and it also involved a lot of risk. Just imagine these letters were being transported. Okay. And as they're being transported, there are always challenges when it comes to weather. There are always challenges like, for example, if at all the car gets an accident and all the letters are in there, how many people would miss out on communicating with their loved ones, their bosses, and the people who would have liked to tell them something? Okay, so it was a really, really great barrier when it came to communication. And so as people have been living, of course, in the world, they have come up with, there is always someone who is thinking of a solution to something. That's why technology is ever evolving. Okay. I see myself, I ride a bicycle to work each and every day. Okay, I don't ride a bicycle. This is, yes, someone rides a bicycle to work every day. And it was really great when it was in the villages. People thought they had actually solved the issue of trekking to work. But then there is also this other mind that sat and wondered, is there a way that I can go faster to work minus using this two-wheeled device, this two-wheeled vehicle? So there is someone who came up with a car, and the car proved to be better than a bicycle. And people jubilated, yeah, now I can arrive in town just in 10 minutes, other than the 40 minutes that I took when I was using my bike. And those people who actually found it custom, they had done it all. But then there was also this other person who thought the price the prices of fuel are unstable, and also it affects negatively the environment because of the pollution and all that thing. So another person thought, why don't we go green? And then this person come up with an innovation, green cars, and they are using electricity. Others are charged with battery. So also these people have thought that they have done it. So in every step of innovation or invention, there is always something that is solved, okay? But that is not the end. Even those ones who came up with green cars, the ones which are powered by electricity, also thought they really actually solved the problem. But another person thought, now, okay, cars have been moving on the roads, and one of the things that we really, really experience, I think most all of us have experienced this, is traffic jam. Have you ever had that appointment at 8 a.m. and you are using public means? You even wake up at 6 and then you're stuck in traffic for 2 hours. Anyone who has ever experienced that, and there is no way that you are going to convince your boss that actually I woke up at 6 a.m., but it's because of traffic that I have arrived late. Because everyone gives excuses. My parents, my children, my this. So it has become like a norm at the workplace. People always giving excuses. So even though, yes, like there are a lot of things like traffic jam has really gotten to people. Like, for example, if at all someone is going to handle a case and you have to appear on time, but then there are all these issues. In that, many people even end up when they are actually using, when they got there 2 hours earlier, just so that they are able to combat all these challenges and all the hindrances that come with things that they have not prepared for. So the good thing is that technology has solved a lot of these challenges. Okay. So in this modern era, there is a really need for real-time interaction. And real-time interaction means instant, like the way I'm talking to you right now. I speak and you receive it immediately. And then when you type in the chat, I also receive that. So regardless of where we are, okay? Uh, regardless of where we are still able to meet. So it's not all about I'm in Eastern Uganda or you're in Western Uganda. With the use of technology, we have been able to come here. And what we are using right now, we are using Zoom. It's just a clear demonstration to you what technology can do. Some people have never actually met me. Yes, you have never met me in like face to face, but here we are. And at the end of the day, I'm going to say, oh, I actually met Faith and talk about her if at all she has shared with me her information. And then I'll say, I actually met Faith and she's this person, she's actually brilliant and she has these fascinating ideas without me meeting her personally, okay? Like physically. So technology has played a very big role when it comes to addressing the geographical barriers of communication. And it goes beyond the geographical barriers, just as we shall see. So some of the categories of things that technology has helped in, it involves document collaboration. Okay. But before we continue, do we have any questions? Feel free to type in the chat so that I don't have to really, really ask every time. Okay. All right. So I think we can continue, right? Okay. So document collaboration. What are some of the documents that you always work on, like almost every day? I'm going to share my experience. Please feel free to share your experiences in the chat or raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Okay? I told you my style of teaching is two-way. It's a two-way street. When it starts going one way, it's actually boring when it's one way. Share with me your experiences in the chat. Raise your hand and you'll be unmuted. Okay. So, Jessa said I write letters often to officials and clients. Yes, Jessa, thank you so much for this. So you write letters often to officials and clients. And so what are some of the challenges that you have actually faced when writing these letters? So meanwhile, we shall deal with your with your um with your experience to explain some of these things. The biggest challenge, sorry about that. So he says that the biggest challenge is that writing well is not obvious. Okay. I have not got the context of writing well. Do you mean addressing your clients or officials? Oh, what's the context of writing well? Yes, so I mean I wasn't trained in letter writing, learning on job. Thank you for your honesty, Jesse. You were not trained to write letters. Great. Actually that's not great, but by the end of this, by the end of our time together, I think we would have learned something. We are not necessarily going to learn letter writing, but I'll be more than honored. Angel, hello, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I'll be more than honored. If at all we have another session, I do not know, of writing like something like letters, of course, not contracts. I'm not a lawyer.
Of
Yes,
course,
I'll be
once
more
it's
than
in
honored.
demand,
However,
it can always
yes,
be arranged, yeah.
yes. I'll be more than honored to actually take on a session when it comes to, I can do things like letter writing. From experience, I have written letters to as many offices that like the biggest offices on earth. Yes. On earth. Yes. On the planet Earth, not on any other planets. From senators to UN officials, ambassadors, presidents, all over the globe. And sharing my experience will actually be an honor. There is always knowledge that we get during our work and service, and sharing it is one of the most fulfilling things that we actually get. One may say like writing to an ambassador or a president is the best thing, but even after learning all this, whenever we share, we actually get that fulfillment like, oh, there is another me somewhere who's doing that thing. Yes. So back to collaborative tools. Mr. David says emails, sending materials to students, receiving written work from students. Yes, so emails, letters, all those things. I'll be honored to share with you. So when it comes to document collaboration, okay, you have written a letter and probably you actually don't know what to put there, and you're trying to request for help from a colleague, say from me, okay? Just imagine this scenario. So many people actually use Microsoft Word for those who actually use Windows. So just so we are going to use your scenario, I am actually interested in this. We're going to use your scenario. So what do you mostly use to write your letters? Hello, are you still online, Jesse?
Yes, we are here.
All right, all right. Okay, I'll take okay, he's using what? I'll just take that. And I call it getting help. Okay. So whenever you do not know something, actually in the modern era, more than ever, getting help is the way forward. Oh, he has responded. He says, what emails? Okay, great. Christian says, what an emails. So requesting for help is one of the best things that will ever happen. And why? The other question would be why? My experience of writing a good letter wasn't actually in a day or even months. For me, it actually took me years. But the beauty is, I can summarize for you the years of writing, all that experience, and share it with you in days or even a week. See, something that took me years to learn can be shared with you in a week. So you do not have to go through those years of writing, failing, trying, understanding what, research. And researching is good and all that, but talking to your immediate neighbor can actually save you months of figuring out things. If at all I want to write, I need a contract, I wouldn't even bother researching how to write one. Why? I don't even understand the tech terms. I just shared with you recently that Angel sent me a message and then she said, I'll let you know when we have forum. Okay. And I had to Google what that word means. So instead of me reading all these books for lawyers, I would just go to Angel and say, you know what? I'm experiencing this and this issue. I make sure I'm clear and the result that I want to get, and then she'll advise me. She took, I don't know how many years in legal school, maybe 5 or 10, I don't know. And she will get for me all that knowledge that she has and then give it to me in less than 2 days. Not that she's going to take me through all the steps, but she will give me the result that I want in 2 days. She knows where to press. She knows which article. I may not know even what an article means, but she knows the articles. She knows the consequences. She knows everything. That's why we need collaboration. Never ever fail to deliver because you do not have the skills. And the issue is, I do not have the skill for this. I do not have the skill for that. When it comes to tech, feel free. I'll be more than honest to either refer you to a friend or help you out with that. So collaboration is not only you and your fellow lawyers or you and your colleagues at work, but even across sectors, it's needed. So it comes to letter writing. We are solving our friend's challenge, letter writing, okay? And you may know the address of the person to whom you want to send this document, and you have your own address. So you tell me, Irene, I have started, I actually have my address, and I have the one to whom it's going to. And what I need is for you to write for me the body of that letter. And these are the issues that I want. Number one, you just list. You have your own address and the person you're sending to. Cool. You have of course, after writing for you, you sign and you send it. So you tell me in the body, I want to address this person on this matter, and these are the results. Okay, results are really important. Never write without thinking about the results. These are the results that I want from this communication, like this letter. When the person receives it, I would like them to respond in this way. So for me, as someone who is experienced in that, I will take your concerns, phrase them in a way that addresses this person, because I'll first study the person's profile. And it's even better if at all you know this person to tell me these are the qualities of this person and this is what they do and these are some of the things that they actually work on. So we draft this letter in a way that suits this person's profile. Does that provide some kind of enlightenment? So you always have to write according to your audience, the person who's going to receive. So that is one way in which we can collaborate on a document so that you can actually we get the best results, because at the end of the day, it's the results that matter. And one of the tools that that are going to help us to do that is Google Docs. Some of you have heard about it, but don't worry, even if you've never even heard about it, by the end of our time together, you'll be great at it. If you invest the time, because it's practical, remember, we always have to invest the time and practice. So it's an online word processor and it's offered by Google. So it's more like Microsoft Word, but the kind of Microsoft Word that enables you to work with someone else. Like I'm typing and you're typing, you can make changes and I can make changes. Like it's like 10 or 100 computers working on one document. And if at all it sounds like magic, we shall see all about it later on, okay? But another thing that I would like to say is that if at all you have any experience with any of these applications, feel free to share with us, okay? Yes, I told you it's a two-way street, so feel free to share with us. We shall look at file sharing, like you always share, let's see, what kinds of documents do you usually some of the documents that you always share? Yes, so Christine says it sounds familiar. Feel free to share with us any experience that you have with it, even during the sessions. They will be more than welcome. So we'll look at file sharing, and for example, you have drafted a contract, you have you have signed the contract, and then you want to share it with your clients. So some of the ways in which in most cases, I have seen this at a certain actually my dad is the one who he handles land cases, and he's not a lawyer, but he's a client who he represents many people where he was born from. Like he's so passionate about his area of birth, and is a strong believer that the natives, actually the locals who own the land shouldn't be interrupted by these people from cities who want to take their land and all those things. So he always acts on their behalf. And this is the story. The story goes every time that he wants to actually get a contract from this farm, he sets off from home at around 5 a.m. And he tells me, Irene, I'm going to come back soon. I have to pick this contract. We have to sign. They have to do this. So I always think, which farm is this whereby they have to make someone wake up at 5 a.m. just to get a contract? And the only thing that's required of them is to sign. Who does that in the modern era? So I don't really actually complain because it's also old school. And what we do is that I just say, oh, all right, I'll be waiting for you. But there are certain things that do not need someone to travel. Like my farm is in Western Uganda. Why would I only concentrate on people who are from Western Uganda? I can handle clients all over the world. And if at all it's a contract, I draft the contract and write all the things that are actually needed in that contract, and then I send it. What they do is to sign and send it back to me. without the need for traveling. So someone has said, oh my God, Mr. Tabo, what's that? Precedence. Documents will always scheduling notes. Whoa, thank you, Asimwe and Mr. Tabo. Thank you, Asimwe and Mr. Tabo. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. So we can always share these files via email. We can share them through Google Drive. We can share them in so many ways. So file sharing shouldn't be as complex as it sounds. Like the way my dad does his thing, so old school. He takes like around 8 hours. So he has to go to this farm. It's somewhere in Wakiso. He has to go there and then he sits in the queue, and this lawyer is working on multiple clients, so he has to wait in the queue, and then he will be called next, and he goes into the office, explains their issue, and then they have to sort him out, and then he has to be taken through the meaning of the legal terms in the contract, and then he has to travel back home. So he's wasting time, money, and every other resource, because when one has time, they can do so many things. And one of the key things in the world is to save time. Everyone wants to save time. So we shall look at how we can do that. And if at all a change has been made, for example, recently, this is a real life scenario that I have seen with my own eyes. Okay. Recently, they gave him a contract. So after traveling for these 8 hours, they had misspelled her mom's name. Okay. So the name, the name had to be, because when it comes, I think, to law things, your first name and last name matter, the arrangement. So the arrangement was swapped. The first name was the last name was the first. So they sign, they take it to a land board, I think Uganda Land Board, and then he was told that these are two different people because of the way names were arranged. So guess what he did? He had to travel back, tell them they changed. So imagine all that money, all that time that he would have used to do something else productive being wasted in traveling. And the everything that was invested just to change a name, the arrangement of the name, because he moved around with hard copies. So he had again to print, travel back, do the same thing. So we shall see how we can we can minimize all the manual processes, and if possible, go 100% into, like, to embrace tech 100% in our farms. We shall look at communication tools. This appears to be obvious because we are using it right now, Zoom, but it has proven to be a challenge to so many people. Like, okay, when it comes to typing in the chat, I know some of you are not saying, but it's a challenge, okay? Like when it comes to scheduling meetings, how can you schedule meetings? How can you use breakout rooms? How can you use conference rooms? And so many other things, okay? How can we get the best out of Zoom? Because what we are doing right now is actually the bare minimum. What we are doing right now is the bare minimum. Christine has a message. Let me see. Okay, Kristen has typed in the chat. I remember that way back in School of Leadership, our cluster had to work on a document where typos would be corrected. Additions would be made on the document by different individuals based on the knowledge of the matter at hand. Final draft is shared by the team leader so as to come up with the final copy, then it is submitted. Thank you, Christine, for your experience, and I'm sure all the others are learning from it. Thank you. And lastly, we shall look at project management. But before we talk about project management, what do you call them cases, right? I'm working on this case. So we're going to take a case to be a project. Okay. So whenever I talk about project, in your mind, process it as a case. So every case has certain things that are done in it. Okay. So I'm going to talk about a project, but when I talk about project, just interpret it as a case. Okay. So every project, so in your mind, it's case, right? Every project has a starting period and an end period. The end period may be definite or it may just be approximate, okay? But it definitely has to end somewhere. It can't be infinite. So every project has different tasks that are involved, okay? So if at all I'm working on a project that has, let me say, 10 tasks. So it may involve investigation, maybe briefing, investigation, and then sieving through the data, evaluation, and it involves having deliverables, like, for example, giving your clients all the paperwork, and then they have to return the signed documents, and then you have to go through them with your legal team. Why do I use the word legal? Okay, with your team of lawyers, and because every time I use legal team, it feels like there is an illegal team somewhere. It doesn't ring in my head. So you have to go through with your other team members. I'll call them team members. And then at the end of the day, all these processes are actually leading to one destination. There is only one output that you would like. And at the end of the day, in most cases, it's a win. You want to win this case. But many times, one may find himself trapped in so many tasks at the same time. As 2 to 3 people can feel free to share with us their experiences. We are just going to go through them first. And for someone not to be trapped in all these tasks, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do the other. Oh, I forgot the deadline and all those things. What they can do, define well that, by the way, knowing the end result is really important. Like, for example, I want to win. So based on the final result that you want, you have to lay down the strategies that actually lead you there. Not to list the strategies and then the end result is the last. It's always good to always have our end result first and then the steps to get to that end result. And the steps that we have to be timed. You need time. You can't work infinitely. They have to be timed. So we allocate time, for example, 2 to 3 days or 2 to 3 hours, depending on the need. And we also have to assign team members for that. So we break up the tasks and then we have to assign team members. So we shall see how all that is done. And we shall be using Trello for that. We'll see what Trello is, what it can do, and all those things. Now, we shared a document. I think Angel shared with you a certain document. Okay. And in that document, it had the prerequisites. I think oh, there is a remission. The things that we need before we start tomorrow's class. You have PCs, stable internet, you need to have active accounts for Zoom and Trello. Okay. But if at all you experience any challenges, kindly let me know. Active email accounts, which we all do have. And did anyone else experience any challenges apart from Faith? Oh, you can share in the chat and then I'll respond to you. And then lastly, wow, we have reached the end of today's session. Do we have any questions, suggestions, or did I say something that you need more clarification on? So remember, our targets for this day was to understand what collaboration is, effective communication practices, how tech can help lawyers to collaborate, and also when it comes to installing, which was shared with you, I think 2 days ago. Do we have any questions? In the meantime, I'll be sharing with you today's assessment and the feedback form in the chat. Okay? So if at all you do not have any questions, you can go straight to that and we'll be good to go. So the assessment and the feedback form is in the chat. And the assessment is just to test your knowledge. It's not hard. It's yes and no. I think there are around 6 questions, 6 or 7, 6 questions. So you are only going to answer yes, no. And the feedback form is to help us to provide better services to you. Be honest. Honesty is really important. Yes. So do we have any questions? I'll share with you how the form looks like. Okay. Feel free to ask any questions. Do you have any concerns? So we have the one assessment. It's not really hard. Just your name, your email. So it's yes or no. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 questions. And then there is one which is just testing your general knowledge. Feel free to share according to what you've got. And then any remarks. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, yes or no.
Hi, Irene.
And then yes.
Can I interject a bit?
Yes, feel free to.
Yeah, so what had been revised was that assessments will come at the end of the week, right? So that it is a weekly assessment as opposed to day one
Oh,
or a daily assessment.
oh,
We'll
all right.
give that
Oh,
entirely
wow. That would be,
that colleagues
yes.
be informed that assessments are done weekly, not daily. So allow us revise internally and
Oh,
the weekly assessment will be sent at the end of the week. Thank you.
at the end of the week. All right. That would really be great. That would actually be great. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, okay. So this will be shared with you at the end of the week. Still, there will be 4 questions. Yes. So is Google account same as email? Yes. Google account is the same as email. So feel free to fill in, I think, the feedback form, right? Is that okay, Angel?
The same goes for the feedback form.
For
Both
the feedback form?
assessments
Oh,
and
right.
surveys will be
At
done
the
at the end
end.
of the week, yes.
Yes. So, Mr. Tabo, thank you so much. Is the Google account the same as Gmail? Yes, it is. So everyone has, because that's how you receive the link, right? Yes, everyone has a Google account. Any more questions? Clarifications that are needed? Did we experience any challenges installing the software? Feel free to share. Okay, Andrew, it seems there are no questions or concerns. I think I'll pass the mic over to you.
Thank you, Irene. I believe
You're
that this has
welcome.
been as interactive as possible. We thank you, members, for putting out all your various opinions in the chat group. Just to reiterate what I had earlier on said, assessments and surveys are done weekly and they are done on Friday. So the assessments for this module, collaborative tools, will be done on Friday, and so will the survey. Would like to hear more from you regarding any opinions you have for the way the classes are to be conducted, because your feedback is really important. For today, we want to say thank you for the introductory class. Kindly please ensure to have all the requirements as were detailed out in the prerequisites form so that you can be able to attain the maximum capacity of this class when it comes to the learning and the expected objectives. If at all there aren't any questions or feedback or inquiries, would like to close today's class. We thank you, our facilitator. Thank you, members, for being present. Yeah. If you're not yet on the WhatsApp group, kindly send me a text. I'm typing my number out in the chat. If you need content from the previous week, please do the same. Send me a WhatsApp. We will be able to reach out and do the needful. I'm going to share today's notes in the group. Yeah. Thank you for your collaboration. Have a good evening.